So think back to like the HTC Evo 4G when it launched in 2010 on Sprint. That thing was the bee's knees from an Android handset. It had a 4.3-inch display, which was huge at the time. It had a 1 gigahertz processor, an 8-megapixel camera. It was running Android, a late version of Android. It was an awesome phone all around, and it was one of the first devices where I remember sitting at that press conference and thinking, this thing's got it all. Now fast forward to 2013, and you're looking at devices with quad-core processors. We're looking at processors with 8 cores coming out very soon. My question to you is that still exciting? I mean, when you go from dual-core to quad-core, was it exciting? When we go from quad-core, was it octa-core? Is it going to be equally exciting? When you see flexible displays on a smartphone, is it going to be exciting? For me personally, I have a feeling this is what a lot of you tech people out there are thinking as well. I'm of the opinion that we've really got to make some changes on the software side. Something has got to change because honestly, Android kind of looks the same across the board. The innovation there from version to version is becoming less and less, comparatively speaking, than what it was obviously from Android like 1.0 to Android 2.3 or Android 2.3 to Android 4.1, or even on the iOS side or on the Windows Phone side as well. Things have got to change. There's got to be some sort of fundamental change in the mobile market because really it's just kind of saturated with devices that I feel do a lot of the same. And if you watch my videos over the years, and particularly over the last 6 months, this is where I really give manufacturers like HTC and Samsung credit because, you know, all these phones kind of sound the same. I can't tell you how many times I've typed out dual-core 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon S4 processor, well now 1.5 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon S4 Pro CPU, or how many times I've typed out 8-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording. I type that stuff in all the time and it almost becomes second nature, so it's not that exciting anymore. You know, even when you see a camera like on the Pantech Discover, where it's 12.6 megapixels, or I mean, there are more devices that have higher resolution cameras, or more megapixels, I should say, than some of the 8-megapixel options out there. But my question is that exciting? As a flexible display, does that excite you? Does a better camera excite you? Does a higher spec processor or a quad-core processor versus a dual-core processor, does it excite you? For me, what excites me, I see a lot of the same in this industry. So as somebody that's covered mobile for 10 years, I started in 2003, it's 2013, somebody that's covered this for 10 years and really watched how everything's kind of evolved out, what I'm seeing is really developments on the software side. I know you guys sometimes give me a hard time for this, but I talk about HTC and Samsung because they do a great job of putting in some software value adds in Android. So instead of stock Android being there, you got a bunch of features that come with HTC Sense and a bunch of features that come with TouchWiz UI, or their Nature UX rather, and you see some features with like their premium suite software stuff and more. So you see all these little goodies in addition to stock Android, S Pen functionality, S Beam. Then on the HTC side, you see great customizations and great personalization options and custom widgets and things like that. And not to say you don't see that from LG and Motorola and the other Android OEMs, but you do see some great development on the software side. I see that as kind of being a driving force in 2013 on the mobile space, but I'm curious to hear from you, and that's why I'm doing this in this segment of Aaron Asks, because I'm curious to see what you think is the big thing in 2013, and not just 2013, but for the next 2 or 3 years. Is it a migration to tablets? Are we going to see bigger devices? 6-inch smartphones, 6.4-inch smartphones? What are we going to see? I'd love to hear from you. And does that excite you? That's the more important thing. I'd love to hear from you. PhoneDog_Aaron on Twitter, Facebook, Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, Facebook.com/PhoneDog, Gplus.to/PhoneDog, wherever you go. Cast that vote. Let me know what you think because I'm curious. Like if you're curious about the displays, maybe you're curious about better processors. I'd love to hear from you as to what excites you, and that is this week's Aaron's Asked. Come back next week because I have a whole new question for you in the new segment Aaron Asks. In the meantime, if there's a particular question you want answered, tweet me as well at PhoneDog_Aaron. Thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you next time.